I'm addicted to Destiny.
I'm addicted to Destiny 2 now. It's kind of my fault. It's kind of your fault.
You've got to have that one game you always return to, and for me that's Destiny, and it's becoming a unhealthy habit, which is why I want to not play Destiny tomorrow, but I'm playing it tonight because we're so close.
Destiny 2 is a retirement home for millennial FPS gamers, and I guess I've been fully admitted. I keep trying to break out, and they drag me by the walker, and they pull me right back in. They pull me right back in, and I can't get away. Please send help.
When I stopped playing Destiny, the first couple of weeks I started suffering from withdrawal. Like, I'm not joking. I was missing it. Like, if I missed a week, I'm gonna miss a whole week of leveling and stuff like that. And I was going through severe withdrawals.
Darren actually does online gaming. He mostly plays, well, pretty much all the time plays this game called Destiny, which is epic. I thought he said he was going to come to bed with me, and he actually was just going, yeah, because he was too into playing the game. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning. Yeah, so like you're so into it and stuff. So
what if we're addicted to Destiny? I was addicted to Destiny 1 for 3 years, and look at me. I come outside now to go to GameStop to buy silver because my mom won't let me use her credit card to buy it off of Steam. And you know, up until now, I was doing so well too. I hadn't touched the Dest in nearly 4 years. But then last week I decided, hey, I'll make a video about how addicting Destiny is, only to once again find myself addicted to Destiny. The Bungie boys have perfected the formula of the live service game, far surpassing the likes of Overwatch, Anthem, The Division, Warframe, and Halo Infinite in both player count and raw gameplay, putting Bungie on the mountaintop of this genre. And that's partially because the game is so addicting. I played Destiny 1 for thousands of hours because yes, it is a fun game, but also because I was hopelessly addicted to it. Then I played Destiny 2 for like another 1,000 hours in an attempt to chase the high that the first game gave me, but to no avail. Even though I would argue that currently Destiny 2 has even more addictive properties than the first game did. So based off the title, some of you may think that I'm going to try and use this video to provide empirical evidence for as to why you should stop playing Destiny, but that's not at all my intention. Really, I just found all of this so fascinating and somewhat worrying, so I wanted to talk about it. Like, did you know that Bungie uses the same behavioral science techniques that casinos use to keep the elderly hooked on slot machines, to keep people like me hooked on Destiny? Hi. There's nothing more alluring than the prospect of winning thousands of dollars with a simple press of a button. Now, Grandma's probably never going to win that big jackpot, but the idea of winning it is on the back of her mind with each and every spin, keeping her glued to that machine. Every once in a while, you'll get a decent spin that gives you some of your money back. Maybe you'll get a bonus round, which is essentially 10 free spins. You can win pretty big during a bonus round. But most of the time, a spin just leads to you losing most of your Patreon money. I got 4 cents. And when you lose that money, you feel sad and frustrated. So what do? You hit the button again and re-experience the excitement of the possibility that you might become rich, like I'm about to right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reels, 0 cents. And when it doesn't work out in your favor, the cycle just continues until you eventually leave the machine. But I'm not leaving, I'm actually going to get more money because I think this one's gonna hit soon. Now equate that to Destiny, where returning to Banshee, Shaxx, or Zavala with an engram in your inventory is kind of like its own spin at the slot machine. Each engram holds the potential of being a god roll weapon, and a god roll weapon is Destiny's equivalent of a jackpot. This one here isn't a god roll though, not even close, it's more like a Mother Mary roll. Every gun that drops into your inventory from any activity has that very same potential of being a god roll, and with such potential comes excitement, and that excitement is a big part of what kept me coming back. Every time you run the raid, you most likely do it to earn the exclusive raid exotic. So each raid run comes with the exciting potential of buffing out your collection. Then when you don't get the gun you were hoping for, you get sad and frustrated. So what do? You run the raid again and again until you get your gun, and when you finally get it, it feels pretty god-dang awesome. I know this because I've been there. I played Vault of Glass countless times to get the Mythoclast. I played the Nightfall on all 3 characters to get 27 strange coins each week so that I could buy whatever Xur was selling. I went to the Lighthouse as many times as possible to increase my chances of getting the Yallarhorn. I played for untold hours each and every day. I stopped talking to people. I became the recluse of our friend group. I stayed in and played Destiny as much as I could because I was hooked, man. Now, Destiny isn't nearly as bad as a casino slot machine, but it still got me sitting in front of a machine nonetheless. And all of this falls under a behavioral theory called reinforcement schedules. So there's this article I found that was written by John Hobson, a guy who has a PhD in behavioral and brain sciences. And in it, he says this: "One day, B.F. Skinner ran low on the small food pellets he gave the rats in his experiments. Rather than risk running out and having to stop work for the day, he began to provide the pellets every 10th time the rats pressed the lever instead of every time. Experimenting with different regimens of reward, he found that they produced markedly different patterns of response. From this was born a new area of psychology, and one that has some strong implications for game design.
The main thing is what we call schedules of reinforcement. Reinforcement is what the layman calls reward, and you can schedule it so that a reward occurs every now and then when a pigeon does something. We usually use a response with a pigeon pecking a little disc, and you can reinforce with food, but you don't reinforce every time. You're every 10th time, or perhaps only once every minute or something like that, and that is at the heart of all gambling devices, and has the same effect. A pigeon can become a pathological gambler just as a person can."
Now, what makes this article so interesting is that the guy who wrote it went on to work for Bungie for nearly 6 years, where he went on to found the research and analytics team, which conducted over 300 studies of various types, including focus groups and user interviews. In other words, he practically spearheaded all of the addictive qualities that both Destiny games possess. He goes on to talk about variable ratio contingency, which is when a specific number of actions are required, but that number changes every time. A player might be required to shoot down approximately 20 enemy fighters to gain an extra ship, but the precise number is randomly generated each time. The player does not know how many actions are required. I think it's pretty obvious where this applies to Destiny 2. After every couple hundred kills or so, an enemy you killed will randomly drop a legendary engram.
Ooh, there it is.
Sometimes even an exotic engram, making that kill feel extra special, making you feel a little extra special, perhaps.
Oh, he dropped an exotic. Whoa.
Sometimes they'll even drop a prime engram, which will have gear inside of it that will raise your power level. But you have to take that to the tower to decrypt it, which is also tapping into delayed gratification. Then Bungie keeps us at a constant hunger for more content, which they satiate by slowly trickling out little things here and there over the course of a season, making sure not to over-deliver, as stated by Justin Truman, Destiny 2's general manager, in a very recent GDC presentation, because over-delivery sets them up for failure. This entire presentation is also pretty upsetting, I think. It's separate to what we're talking about here, but boy, reading through this was really sad. But that's a completely different topic altogether. Getting back on track, what Bungie could do is they could release the entirety of a season's content all at once. But if they did that, most people would complete all of it within the first week or two and would have less of a reason to log back in each week. And if you stop playing this game for a week or maybe even a month, then there's a good chance you might not come back at all.
When I stopped playing Destiny, I was going through severe withdrawals, but after like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that went. And after that went, I never looked at Destiny again. And my life was better for it.
They want to keep us playing for as long as possible. So one way they do that is they keep us hungry so that we keep eating. And who wouldn't be hungry for more Destiny content? The gameplay is amazing. I started playing Destiny 2 again for the purpose of this video, and it immediately sunk its hooks back into me. I was instantly reminded of why I loved it as I was forced into the latest season's mission, where the combat and movement felt smooth as butter, as I smoothly detonated butterflies and watched Hive acolytes cremate before my very eyes. The scenery was beautiful, the music was awesome, and the presentation was amazing, as Eris Morn had ascended into a member of the Hive. I thought this was a fantastic way to organically combine the grind of Destiny with the season's storyline.
Bring me your tithes.
as each little battle or activity would lend itself towards leveling up Eris Morn. I could feel its hooks sinking even deeper as I looked at all these cards I could unlock, which would grant me with additional powers and the seasonal activities, and I felt an urge to unlock them all. And so far, after just one activity, I had already picked up 2 cards, and to fully activate one of them, it said I needed to complete a bunch of public events, and I didn't like that. So I immediately logged off the game, because even though I haven't played Destiny in years, I am still so incredibly sick of completing public events. I'd much rather come out into public and go to a real event, even if it's one that I might not fit into very well. But a couple hours later, I logged back into Destiny 2 and got to work on completing some public events like a good little guardian. And I unlocked that card, only to discover that to reap its benefits, I would need to unlock 4 more. I didn't like that. It made me feel like the public events I completed were all for nothing, unless of course I were to continue playing, which I did. And when I walk away from a Destiny 2 play session, I often feel unsatisfied and somewhat disappointed. It's actually very similar to the feeling I'd get after scrolling through Twitter or watching short-form content for too long.
Whenever I meet somebody new, I say, "Hi, how are you?"
Like, yeah, admittedly, I had a decent time while it was in front of me, but I don't feel that I had a valuable play session. I'm left yearning for more substance in the form of challenging gameplay or mastering a new skill. And yeah, good for Bungie that this game has gone on for 10 years and will probably continue on for several more. But there's something to be said about definitive endings, not just for overall seasonal storylines and character arcs, but for games in their entirety. It's nice to feel like you actually finished something, or at the very least are working towards finishing something. After a 2-hour play session, I don't feel like I got enough done given the amount of time I put in. All I was able to do was 2 Nightfalls and 4 Crucible matches. I made barely any progress towards anything. And when I walk away feeling unsatisfied, I usually feel even more compelled to return to Destiny 2, because I want to rectify that dissatisfaction by coming back to complete those tasks and unlocking more stuff, thereby granting me some satisfaction.
Oh, baby.
Destiny leaves me with a hole in my heart, and makes me think that the only way to fill that hole is by playing more Destiny. And it feels like you can't just play Destiny casually. The only way to play Destiny is to only play Destiny. Otherwise, you'll always be behind. Because Destiny never ends. There's always a carrot on a stick that beckons to be chased in the form of bounties, seasonal challenges, catalysts, weekly pinnacles, and titles. They make sure that you're always working towards something in order to give you a sense of false progression, which falls under variable schedules. If there's a constant probability for reward, then the player always has a reason to do the next thing. Now, a lot of games have utilized variable schedules over the years. Open world games do this a lot to keep us invested in them and to keep us coming back, but Destiny does it to keep us playing forever. There are so many things in this game that you level up, so many numbers to increase which provide you with a chroma rush of dopamine each time you do it. Destiny 2 is all about increasing the number, whether it's your power level, your guardian rank, your artifact, your battle pass, or your faction levels like the Vanguard, Crucible, Gambit, Trials, Gunsmith, Season Pass content, and hell, even some of the guns can be leveled up. Yet the actual gameplay side of things has seen so little improvement or innovation over the years. Case in point, when the seasonal models started, we were throwing balls into a big metal spire. A couple of years later, we were shooting ether off a wall. And now we're carrying crystals, when in reality it feels like we're smoking crystals. I think that Destiny's gameplay scenarios could really use a breath of fresh oxygen SR3. Then to top it all off, there's a pretty healthy dose of FOMO in here as well. When I quit playing for a few years, I felt like I couldn't have played with my friends, despite them inviting me to, until I caught up on a whole bunch of stuff. Like I would have to complete the entire Lightfall campaign and get my power level up to 1800, which would take several hours. And why would they want to play the Lightfall campaign with me? It's awful. The mission design is trash, the characters are obnoxious, and the difficulty is poorly tuned.
I don't know how he hit me, man.
So, there's no...
Killed us both in one hit.
My gun didn't do that much damage to him. Alright,
We're back here.
exit to desktop. I'll see you later. That's bullshit.
Then there's seasonal weapons and all sorts of things that eventually just become unobtainable. All the content in this game seems that its days are just numbered until it hits the Destiny content vault. But everything I've talked about in this video isn't new or exclusive to just Destiny. Destiny is far from being the first game to implement any of these psychological techniques, but I think that Bungie has damn near perfected them. When you combine Destiny's amazing movement and gunplay with these psychological technological techniques, it makes for a game that feels impossible for me to stop playing. We have an incredibly addicting game on our hands here, but we don't necessarily have a fun one. Bungie doesn't need to focus on maximizing the game's fun factor when the player is already buzzing from the prospect of the loot they might get from completing an activity, or that buzz of progression, or that buzz of productivity and getting stuff done, or for leveling something up. They've gotten us to play the same content over and over again by completing countless public events and patrol missions, because all of that eventually leads up to us getting rewards, regardless of how benign and repetitive the activities are. And what I find fascinating about all of this is kind of our fault. Because in a way, we've all been our own enablers of this addiction. And what I mean by that is, when Destiny 2 first came out, all of the weapons had fixed rolls as opposed to the random rolls in Destiny 1. All of the exotics were super easy to unlock, and you hardly had to be lucky to get them. I think I had literally everything the game had to offer within like 6 days of its release. So this was because Bungie did a bunch of things for Vanilla D2 that streamlined the grind. In hindsight, their heart was in the right place when they implemented these changes. Because according to an article on The Guardian, the lead director of Forsaken said this: "We found with Destiny 2, and this is the case I think on any game, that players don't want to be told when to stop playing, even if they probably should stop playing. They want to believe there's always something for them to do, and they want to be able to make that choice on their own. Destiny 2, as much as it was trying to respect players' time, had a very bad way of showing you when you were done playing and not giving you more to do." But everyone hated these changes, myself included, because Destiny 2 was no longer scratching the same itch that the first game scratched. We weren't getting that dopamine from getting lucky with a god roll. And even though Destiny 2 was fun to play, the reward centers of our brains weren't being tickled like they used to be. There were no more carrots on sticks to chase once you'd completed the raid, meaning there weren't many reasons to play, which upset the more dedicated players of the Destiny fanbase. Because when you're hooked on Destiny, all you want is more Destiny. So as a result, we all complained, and then Bungie listened and made Forsaken more addicting, with random rolls and all sorts of trinkets and abilities to grind for. Then slowly over the years, they implemented even more stuff to grind for, until we got to where we're at now. Destiny is an incredibly manipulative video game, one that literally thrives off of addiction. Because if you're not addicted to Destiny, it's just not very much fun to play. It's just one mindless activity after the other until you level up enough to play an activity that's actually fun, like a raid or a dungeon. But even then, you're expected to play those activities at least once per week to get all the gear from it. If you don't, eventually that gear might become unobtainable once Bungie puts that dungeon or raid into the content vault. It's almost impossible to just boot it up and play it for a couple hours a week because you'll hardly even make a dent in anything. You won't have leveled up much, you won't have made much progress towards completing your exotic quests or unlocking more subclass abilities, and odds are you'll most likely have fallen behind your friend's progress, or fallen behind the game itself, as it'll have trickled out some more stuff for you to do and unlock. And I'm not here to be your chaperone. I'm not telling you that Destiny is bad for you or that you should stop playing. That's up for you to decide. For some, it can be a good social outlet, a decent way to relax after work, or even a source of comfort. But for others, it can lead to the demise of all those things. So just ask yourself honestly if you're playing because you're genuinely having fun, or if you're playing because you feel like you have to. I definitely need to stop playing because I can't say I'm having much of a good time. There are so many other games I thoroughly enjoy that I really want to play, like Solar Ash, which just came out on Game Pass and is pretty awesome, or Armored Core 6, which I've played for a few hours and I think is genuinely fantastic, and Lies of P, which I haven't even been able to play yet. But if I play those games instead of Destiny, I'll fall behind. I feel this urge to complete all of these tasks in the game and I can't stop playing. For me, it's not a good addiction. It's a maladiction. So the best thing I can do for myself is uninstall the game. Anyway, go watch the review I made for Halo Infinite. I put a ton of effort into it and the YouTube algorithm refused to do its job, so go give it a peek. And as always, big thanks to the patrons who make videos like this possible, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.